Hello everyone! Welcome to my stream. I thought I'd do something different for a change. Not different for me, but different for my stream. I'm going to write some code on stream. It's going to be boring code, but if you're into or curious about PowerShell or writing tests for your code or what it's like to write a client against a RESTful API, I have this chore that I need to get done. So I thought I'd do that on stream. So I'm gonna run a little music, and I'm gonna code in tomatoes. And we'll start out. I won't be able to display the timer. I haven't figured out how to do that very well yet. But I'll just dive right in, and I'll check the chat at the end of the tomatoes. I'll try not to be distracted by it while I'm in the tomato, but also try to describe what I'm doing as I'm going. So with that said, let's dive into the code I've got. So I'll spend a few minutes to describe what we got here. It's a library I started to put together. It's in PowerShell. It's basically an attempt to make a module that will interact with the GitHub API. I need it for a side project that I kind of need for work, but I'm not actually being paid to work on this. So I'm just kind of doing it for fun. I don't normally do PowerShell for fun. I've played with PowerShell a lot over my long career, but I've never really gotten good at it. It's an awkward language, to be nice, but the introduction of testing really makes it better. So I'm going to write some tests for code I've already written, and the reason I'm going to do that is because the code broke, and I should have known that tested code isn't, you don't know it works, or sorry, untested code, you don't know it works until you write tests. So adding tests now, better late than never. So I'm gonna start the first tomato. Like I said, I'm not gonna be able to display the tomato timer on the screen. I'm still working on that. But then it's 25 minutes, and then I'll take a break at the end of that. I'll try to describe what I'm doing as I'm going though, and I'll play some light music. It's royalty free, so it shouldn't be a problem. Keep it kind of low key. Okay, starting now. Okay, so I'm looking through this module. I haven't looked at this code in about a month. I've got a root module file here that does a recursive look through all the scripts and sources them. I actually remember trying to refactor away from that. I'm not sure if that's going to work. Yeah, so I need to move in the root module, the GitHub.psm1 here in the root. That's doing a .source or recursive .source, and I realized that actually doesn't work. .sourcing doesn't work very well. Or rather, it does work well. The way I was doing it didn't work. I realized I needed to move to a model where I'm .sourcing things explicitly in an order and not doing it inside scripts like this. Because when you do it inside a script like this and then you try to go test it with Pester, it doesn't. You can't mock it out, and I really rely, at least mentally, on being able to mock things for my tests. So I'm kind of refactoring everything to make it more testable as I go, but writing tests at the same time. This isn't a feature complete library; it doesn't handle a bunch of things correctly yet, but I'm working on it. So yeah, this one core module is sort of nested inside this other module, and it kind of provides like the basic ability to talk to the GitHub API. And then these more mature commandlets sit on top of that. So it's kind of like an onion, like an ogre. So I've got tests for this one core commandlet called GitHub API request default headers. It's just like an example of something that's needed for every request to GitHub, right? So here are my tests for that. It took a lot of trial and error to figure out the structure, and I'm not going to remember it very well because I did all this like a month ago. But this basic Pester setup, I think. I import the main module, then I do a describe and an in module scope, and I do a before all, after all, just sort of like orchestrating all the little details so that I can run a test. And then here's an example of an actual test, right? It's all the way down here is the it. So the way you would read this is like describe, so it'd be like GitHub API request default headers, in module scope, GitHub core. Given GitHub token does not exist in the environment, returns, remember we're describing this commandlet. We're saying it returns a hash table, and we assert that it's not null without authorization token. Right? So you should, if once you get used to the structure, you should be able to read down through it and understand like what you inserted. And as you go, you'll see contextual information telling you kind of like how the test is set up to mimic. So this I've already written, and I can show that it works by calling invoke Pester. And it's going to complain that I haven't named all of my stuff very well, but we'll deal with it later. But everything's green, well, except for the other. There's no red. So it's not all green, but there's no red. Sorry if you're colorblind. This is just kind of the convention for test suites. Green for good and red for bad. But yeah, we can read right here. So describing this method in this context, given GitHub token in this environment, returns hash table without authorization token. That took 1.1 seconds to run. Seems kind of long, but I don't know. I guess the model loading might be slow. And then there's the other test, which I didn't just go over the code for, but it's the inverse. It's the token does exist in the environment, returns hash table with authorization token. Right, so that proves that simple little piece of code here does what we expected to do. This is important. I actually realized as I was testing it that it didn't function correctly when the token wasn't in the environment. So just by writing the test and thinking about the code in more detail, I was actually forced to fix it. So testing is definitely good. A lot of people, it'll be a no-brainer, but sometimes when you're in a hurry and you're like, man, no one cares about this code, I'll skip the test, and it works on the first try, and you're happy with it. But like I said, you come back a little while later and it doesn't work right. So I got tests for that one. I got tests for this one, GitHub API resource. This is calling some other stuff going on down here. But this was a more advanced testing scenario because I had to figure out how to successfully mock stuff using the mock command. Pester seemed to be really picky about where you do that, and when you do your asserts. I'm still trying to get the hang of it. I'm not really used to, in other languages, a lot of times the mocking framework is actually something separate from the testing framework. And so if you can reason about when the testing framework is running your code, you can just mock whenever you want, as long as it fits your model, like the model of how it works. But Pester, the mocking actually seems to be really closely tied to the structure of the tests. So it can be, if you're used to a lot of freedom with where you do what, it can have unexpected results. So we'll try to keep that in mind as we dive through this more. So we get to our next commandlet, and it doesn't have tests. This is called GitHub API rate limit tracking. This was kind of a nice to have. I don't know if I want to spend much time on this, but I basically needed to make sure that we don't, because GitHub has something called API rate limiting. We can actually look this up. GitHub API rate limit. You're actually only supposed to hit the right API so often, and they return headers based on like how much you have remaining. And if you violate that, they'll just give you a raspberry and not answer your requests. So I built in some code to kind of handle that. It keeps track of the rate limits, or at least it tries to, with some global variables. I know that's dirty. And then it does that by reading out the headers like this from the response, and then it waits until if there's a wait. I've never actually hit this use case where I needed it to wait the rate limit while I was using it, because that number is usually in the tens of, like the single digit thousands or the tens of digits of thousands, like 5,000 or 10,000 or something like that. So can you imagine making like 10,000 API requests? Chances are, if you're making 10,000 API requests, you're either doing something that you know needs to scale, or you're doing something wrong. For the use case I'm ultimately trying to get at, which is basically just reading like repositories and users from the GitHub organization. That small GitHub organization. I don't think I'll need to worry about this too much. So I might. Yeah, I want to skip the tests, but I think my discipline compels me to not skip the tests. So let's open it up side by side and start working our way through the tests. And we'll keep up this example of a good test here. Actually, not that one. This one. And we'll flip back. Actually, we'll put it over here, and we'll have that up so that we can flip to it. On the wrong side. I'm all turned around, guys. Hold on. No. My windows. Okay. The idea is I'm going to write tests here in this window. I'm going to refer to the implementation here. And if I need to refer to a known working complex test, I'll flip to this tab here. That's kind of how I'm going to go with it for now. So, see here. So starting out, we should probably import the module. So I'm just going to, this is something professionals do sometimes, just copy and paste code. Exactly what I'm going to do. Import module. And I'm going to do it in a describe of, what is it called? GitHub. This actually has several functions in it. I would normally avoid that because the idea is you would dot source this file, not several, two functions. Normally the idea is you dot source this file and you expect only one function to get out of it, at least following SRP. But since these two functions need to share global state, and I wasn't sure of a better way to do that in PowerShell, I put them in the same file so that the functions, when they enter the state of being defined, that they're referring to the same variables, like the exact same variables. Otherwise, the rate limiting wouldn't work because the number would get reset every time. So I don't know if there's a better way to model this in PowerShell. In a language like C#, I would make something that represented the state, and then like as a class, and then maybe use my dependency injection framework to mark that as singleton or something like that. I'm definitely like that kind of programmer normally. I don't do a lot of PowerShell. So I'm open ideas if anyone wants to comment. But that's why I'm going to do state management right now. It's just global variables in a file like this, and functions to manipulate it in the same file. So the convention for the test is describe name of function. I'm going to do describe this. That's interesting though. I've just realized just by talking about it, they share state. So as we build up our nested test structure, we're gonna have bits of state being introduced, right? Like some context here, right? And we're gonna rely on that for tests. We're probably actually gonna want to share state as we call each function. So even though our convention was to, at the top level for the test, have a describe named after the function being tested, I think I'm actually going to break from that and actually just use the top level will be the file, and then we'll switch back and forth between the functions all the way down to the leaves of our tests, basically. So we'll use the name of the file. We're testing the file more than the function. Describe is takes a script block, second parameter. Yeah, Pester is interesting because it makes you use this syntax where you pass in the second parameter. We're calling describe as a function, and we're giving it two parameters, a string and a script block. This isn't language syntax where there isn't a describe keyword in PowerShell. We're actually calling this function and then passing it code. So sometimes understanding that and trying to use that can get you in trouble. But we'll take what we can get. So yeah, so we're describing the name of the file, and then we have to use a module scope because that gives us the ability to mock out things that the module uses internally. And I tend to indent that at the same level as the top describe. to make things confusing. Actually, I know I'm not going to introduce anything in between here because I would never test this without doing this. So I don't waste the indentation because you can only get so much, especially when you have screen size for streaming. So looking at our reference tests here, we've got some state set up. We don't know if we're necessarily going to do that. So we'll go ahead and go. We'll have to actually start thinking about what we're testing here. So let's think about update GitHub rate limit tracking first. Structure of this, it has a begin and a process. The begin is sort of like infrastructural code, but we want to make sure that errors always stop, like a habit. So I don't worry about having to test this entirely. The real logic here is pulling variables out of the response. We're not returning anything. But we are writing to debug. That's interesting. Okay. I'm trying to decide. So normally when I would test a function, definitely in the sense of like functional programming, I would test the result. But since this actually modifies some state that you can't directly see, it's kind of hard to think of like what we would assert against in our test. But we do actually already have a write debug statement here that might actually be a good way to get it out because it's already passing this stuff through. So let's do a given context. Context given rate what given default state. Decide how would I like that. That's consistent with the other problem. Context given, default state. I don't know if you can put a describe. I don't know if you can put a describe inside something else. I think it didn't let me do that before. I certainly didn't leave with it. Let's So we want to describe it. Updates tracking from headers, right? Like this is like what we're gonna write, the test we're gonna write. I'm curious if the structure works. So before I've done I don't have any asserts in here. All I have is just the test structure, and I'm already sort of uncertain about whether or not the test structure works. So I'm just gonna go ahead and run the test framework. And if the structure of the test is valid for the test framework, like the syntax, I should get green, right? Otherwise I'll get some sort of error. So I got a question mark. Hey, you didn't actually assert anything. So I don't think we've broken any major rules yet. We don't have to do anything to establish this context because just by having the import module at the top, and after all, we're module. Import it, but before on. I actually have to do, yeah. So, yeah. I'm trying to figure out like how to make sure the state gets reset each time the test runs, because that's a precondition for our test, right? Is it state exists? You have to update it over time. The structure where I was only removing the module at the end after all these tests and the whole test file run, was fine for this other test example. But I need something to make sure the state gets reset as the test gets rerun, like if I had multiple tests in here. So to do that, since I don't know how to access these values, I don't know if the module scope will let me get to them or how. Since I can't access those values, or I'm assuming I can't access those values, I know I can get up the reset by having the module removed and re-imported. So I'm actually going to change this into for each. Or sorry, an after each. I have this as a before each around the import module. I don't know if that'll work. So I might have to do it like this, because I actually know that that won't work. That won't let me mock stuff. Whereas the mock commands, as they occur, actually kind of run before these other blocks in some sort of way. It's really weird. Maybe module scope will let me do it. Pester change module variable. Okay, so they're using this syntax. Vertigo. I'm not seeing the syntax I need to see here. Because he seems to be talking about state for the test, and I'm worried about state for the module. Yeah, maybe global. Let's try that. Yeah, we'll abandon this. Maybe for each. Highlighting a different color. I don't know what that means. Might as well just. Oops. Yeah, sure. We'll leave that collapsed. Give us a little more room. For basic, we're hoping that if we call our function. Takes in response headers. Given response with rate limit. Looking for vocabulary here. Here, I want to describe a rate limit that hasn't been met yet. Like there's still capacity remaining. Given response with rate limit capacity remaining. Okay, that's the way to describe it. So our convention follow doesn't have an example of a given in it. Like a given function, yeah, like this. So you declare this. That's gonna, and we declare it above the given. So that goes like this. Oops. And then above it, we make a function call it given response with, we'll just call it that. Response capacity. So response headers. Oh, hey, we finished our tomato. It didn't make any noise, so we'll take a short break. We won't take a full 5-minute. I'll be here and take a wider look at. Okay, so we'll just a refresher. We're working on a PowerShell library. Just to talk to the GitHub guy. The library is pre-existing. It was originally authored something like 3 months ago. It's just tossed together to serve a specific like experimental use case. And then when I went back to use it again like a month ago, it didn't work. And I think as much hair as I lost at this point in my career, I'd actually have hammered in my brain that code that isn't tested isn't reliable, but I hadn't written tests and that was a problem. So I'm writing tests now, try and clamp down the existing behavior of this so that I can make it usable again and expand something. The structure of the module is at the root there's a module that's intended to be imported. Also a module nested inside of it that's some of the more shared functionality necessary to talk together. And so we started adding our tests. I wrote these like a couple weeks ago, 3-4 weeks ago. I realized that I needed to test everything in here. And now I'm back here, we're writing tests in here. So that's kind of what we're up to. Using Pester, we're running a PowerShell core. So technically you could do all of this on a Mac or what. I think VS Code runs. It's something I think it does. I've never actually tried. I haven't tried on Mac. I don't have money. Okay, so not sure how to start up a new tomato. I think this program wanted me to measure my brake, and I'm like, there we go. Okay. So yeah. Yeah, I'm not sure if 5 minute tomato makes sense. Or sorry, 5 minute break makes sense on stream. That's just thinking out loud here. Theoretically, there are people watching. I see you. It's just I don't. Normally, I'd like walk away and like play with something. I'll have to think of like an activity I can use to distract myself on stream that is stream friendly. To rest my brain. It's really important in the Pomodoro technique. You rest your brain between your tomatoes, as they're called. It helps you when you come back. It helps you have a fresh look at what. I'm already getting some of the fresh look for free just because I'm forced to talk about everything while I'm streaming. So I'm getting kind of the rubber duck effect as it is. Looking around, I don't have a rubber duck at home. I used to have rubber. It's important to have somebody to talk to, and now I get to talk to my camera. So yeah, let's go back in the code. I'll start another timer and try and be more focused for the next little bit. So, okay. So we were testing this function. We're setting up state for it. We're kind of orchestrating the test. So we need to. I like to kind of make a seam in my test. I didn't describe this as I was doing it. I should have. I usually like to have something called a function that invokes the function under test for me, so that if I have multiple tests around that function, I don't have to update them all. It will like change the parameters for that function. For example, this example test here that I've highlighted, it's calling something called get. It's testing something called get GitHub API resource, and it's passing 2 parameters to it. Well, if I added a 3rd parameter to that function, I'd have to update theoretically a bunch of tests. So by wrapping this up in one function, I create a seam that keeps me from having to keeps changes from propagating like virally in a way that's not pleasant. So I'm gonna have something just like that over here. Obviously, we're calling a different function, right? Calling this. That's what we're. Obviously, the parameters it takes a object called response headers. And so we call this response headers. And we'll make a variable for it. So our given will set the variable. And we have to declare it up here. Response headers. Decide how to do. Yep. So type is object. Can't specify. I don't remember if I need to. I'm gonna declare. Okay. Specifying the type, isn't it? Okay. The response headers. Rope subject. Is it? What I need to do. I need to do. I gotta look and see how to refer to this variable from these nested scopes. I don't remember if it matters. But that doesn't, that doesn't, that doesn't. Okay. I was trying to decide if I had to use syntax like this. PowerShell has some weird ways for referring to variables that are in like outer scopes. Like if you want to change them, that matters. I'm gonna go ahead and actually write it. It's called using. It might instead be script. I get so confused with these. I have no idea which one to use when. Like, this is not my language of choice for day-to-day work. Fit the problem best. Sometimes you have to make that hard choice. So response headers, going to be new object, and we're going to make a PS object, custom object. Oh look, we had a little snippet insert for us. Oh, that's handy. That's handy. I guess that's the PowerShell extension for VS Code. So we need to put together our parameters the way we would expect this function to read them out. Have an X rate limit remaining. I'm trying to figure out how to adapt for one of these. Like this. Or is it with an equal sign? See, it's been like a month since I've written PowerShell, so that might have kind of. What's power? Shell hash, man. Table hash table, not. It's okay to have to look up how to write a hash table. Right, so this language uses it. Equal syntax and it's semicolon separate. They look like little statements, kind of. That's what I could do. I don't like to write magic numbers in my code, so normally I'd just be like, oh, 5,000, that means there's stuff remaining. The problem is then you get coupled to get random positive. I don't know the best PowerShell syntax is for random numbers, so PowerShell get random. That is the idiomatic way. So minimum, we'll just set minimum to 1. Doesn't take an input object. Oh, a random one of it's our input array. Is it a random one of those? So just to reiterate, we do this because we don't want our test to be too sensitive to a specific number. Like we don't want it to return 5,000 and then in our assert check for 5,000, right? So the best way to make sure you don't do that is to actually trying to string interpolate. Just actually use the random number. How do I even? Oh, is it like that? There we go. It's different in every programming language, I swear. Okay. Right, so then we do this when we get random. Get minimum. Minimum. And we don't care about the rest. Okay. X rate limit. And then rate limit reset. And that needs to be a timestamp. If I'm understanding the implementation, the version you're in implementation correctly. That's a number of seconds. It's added to Unix input to represent now. So it could just be another random number, right? It needs to be positive though. Not resetting right now. So we'll just do the same thing again. So the way this test is structured right now, and it's not done yet, so a lot of work for one test. We're invoking the subject, but before we get there, doing a given. So the given, gonna make sure we call it context before each given response with rate limit capacity remaining. Right, that sets up our response headers. Pass in. It updates tracking from headers. Well, we need to make sure we assert that we're updating the tracking from headers. But before I get into that, I'm going to run Pester again. What we've got. Okay, so something we got is broken. Error occurred in test script. Assignment expression is not valid. But to an assignment operator must be an object that is accept assignment. But saying my against script. I did that all this time. And, oh, because I got globals here. Oh wait. Bad syntax. Okay. It's had to be script. I'm gonna be using. Still won't know. Either way, we still won't know. Our test. No, it has to be script. Okay, so we coincidentally got that right. Okay, or at least got it better. Okay. I believe that is what you need to do to make sure you modify this variable. Otherwise, the mutation is temporary. Okay. So we still need to detect, to spy on the function under test. Make sure it's doing what we. I think we can read the variables out. So now they're being set. Right, okay. Given state, given rate limit capacity exceeded. Change this up. Yeah, we're changing kind of our outer condition to make the test easier to write. That way we can just check. Assert. How's the syntax? Yes. Should be positive. I don't know what's the syntax. I'm not getting syntax suggestions. I think the plugin was used. There we go. Be greater than. So that's all we had. Expected null, but got. Oh, I didn't save it. Well, that's important. You have to. Now it failed. Expect to be greater than 0, but got 0. So, I don't know that this is modifying the variables. Get into it. Oh, almost sneezed. Oh, rough line. What if I explicitly make these global? So let's get that new implementation and see if it changes. Hold on. Technically value greater than 0, but still got 0. So it's still not modifying the same stuff, is it? Interesting. I'm trying to think of how I can spy on that change if I can't get to the variables. Like, I know this code successfully talks to its variables, because I've seen it in the past. That's why they're in there. So I can keep track of what I was, because I hadn't tested the code. I needed a way to make sure it worked, so I put it in right debug statements. So it's remaining. Let's make sure we're getting so we'll write that out. Of course. I forgot it does that crap. I will do can't refer to didn't print anything. Oh, message. Gonna do it. String. Hold on, there's a C# developer here. Only a C# developer. String on it all the time. With null. So our response header when we call invoke subject was null. Do I need to put script in here? I'm so bad at this language. I declare it like this. I feel like I'm like doing some kind of weird ritual, like trying to summon a demon or something. I just gotta move the symbols around and get it to work right. PowerShell test mod symbols. I could do set variable. Of course, there's a command. Module. I could write a function. These have variables too. I'm looking through these to see if any of these kind of do what we're doing. I don't know how you test the little state. Scratching my noggin. Can make a function, sets it. I mean, I effectively I have a function. Just it pulls it out in headers. Yeah, I could overload this function. Then it makes the test a little. I think the best word to describe it would be incestuous. But I could make the function overloaded, such that it has a separate parameter set that takes these two values and just updates them. And then then I could call the function in order to set up data to set the function. I don't know if that works. I mean, I maybe it hurts my brain. Let's try it though. Name from response headers. And then we'll make a different parameter. Oh no. So mandatory parameter set making values be an int. Wait, remaining commas. Rate limit and reset. Seconds. Yeah, this is how you do overloading PowerShell. It's not pretty. It discriminates based on looks at the parameters you pass in and then figures out what parameter set's being used. And so we're going to refactor this so that we'll think of this as the primary way of calling the function. This is sort of like a helpful overload. It hurts me to have to do this. I don't like this very much, but I'm kind of stuck with it for this task. So I think the convention I normally use when I do an overload is I make the secondary path in the begin block. So instead of that, oh gosh, my brain's all over the place. Sorry. I'll call that goes here. Oh, and I'm already seeing I had that as an int, and it's actually a long. I think that'll do what we want it to do. So instead of trying to set the variable like this, we'll just call the function that we're testing. We'll call the function that we're testing in order to set up the test for the function. Yeah. So dirty. Let's update. But this time we do our new parameter. Okay, our tomato's over. Okay, so let's take a step back. I'm gonna eat a piece of cheese because that's how I do. Cold coffee. That's amazing. Probably do something about that. It's a refresher. We're trying to test this module. It worked once upon a time, and then it didn't work without any idea why. So we're refactoring it to make it testable and adding tests so that we make sure that each part of it works, and by the time we're done, we'll know that the whole thing works. Then it'll be safe to add the features to it that we need to add to it. It's definitely not going to be the stream. At this rate, we're not even done testing this stream, but that's fine. Right, so it's okay to struggle. That's how you know you're doing work. So we're testing rate limit tracking. Let's look ahead a bit. We'll have to test this function. So it's interesting. So we'll probably have a couple different states to pass through. Once we get the flow down, this will go faster. It just takes a while to get up to speed, especially, you know, I've been on vacation, so I haven't written code in like 2 weeks. Haven't looked at this code in like a month. I don't do this language very often. So I find all these factors, and this is a good exercise, but it's slow moving. Just let me know if you have any questions. Coffee. Coffee's still hot. I love having a decent thermos. Oh, that's nice. Cold coffee is not fun. Yeah, so for music, I discovered today, because I was like, there's no way I can stream code. There's no way I can stream code without having like some music listening to while I code. It's just kind of part of how I work. I discovered this thing called Pretzel. pretzel rocks. And it's like, they describe themselves as like Pandora, except it's all royalty free. I'm sure you can see them spamming the channel. That's okay though. I'm actually really enjoying this so far. I might even consider paying for it, just to the higher quality audio stream. I don't know that they have a very large selection, but I haven't heard any repeats yet, and I've enjoyed almost everything I've heard, which is more than I can say about Spotify, which is what I normally listen to when I write code. So, which is really funny. So, and I pay for Spotify. So, I don't know. You guys, pretzel rock people, you got a good business going for you. So, keep it up. I'm a fan. Okay, so we still technically have a minute left in our intermission between Pomodoros, but we're just going to go ahead and clear that out because I don't have a lot to ramble about, and I don't have a fun activity yet to do. So, start a new tomato. Cut the music up. I'll try and talk less this time. Yeah, that goes. I still need to be able to test the state to make the test work. Like, that was the real problem. Like, it wasn't just that we couldn't set the state, but we also couldn't test the state. Part of me wants to just knock out the right debug and use that mock as a spy. Because we could just assert that it's called with the exact text with the numbers filled in that we expect. That's really fragile. But, I don't know that I want to keep that right debug in my code forever, because it's not essential to the code, or the code might get more complicated at some point. It's get lost in the process of refactoring. But one thing I know that's very important is that the code tracks the state. So I think I'm just going to go ahead and write functions that expose let's return the state. So. We'll write it at the top. Why am I putting quotes around it? Get I still don't know if I need all these globals. I'll have to go back and double check that. I'll take them out if I don't need them. If I don't need them up here. I probably still need them here. Wait, no, Amy. Right. Hmm. There we go. Yeah, it was just stuck in some weird way. Oh, no, I'm pointing out my syntax error. That's a shame. Did Pester even point it out? That's funny. It didn't tell me it couldn't import the module. Saved. Save all. Okay, yes, okay, I got there. Move the module. For some reason we gotta do that. Okay. Can't call method on a null valued expression. 23. Oh no, the test. 23. Right debug. Oh yeah, we still have this. Yeah, that's never gonna work. We decided that though. Also, we gotta change that. Oh no, we don't. That's still probably right. Valid cast from date time to int64. So what do we do? Okay. Line 27 of the file under test. Should be it. Global. Alright, so I did the add seconds. Now I want to keep the add seconds in the implementation, I just pass it in. Parsing out the frame. Now I've got this habit where I feel like I need to remove the module. Expected greater than 0, but we got 0. Remaining, so yeah, that's because we got our debug prints in. So we're getting to this. This code is running. All in. Still running our code. It's 0. It's right debug. We know right debug is getting to it, so we can go ahead and put our parameters. Weird. I almost expected this. I wanted this to be the opposite, right? Because we initialized it with 0. and are before each. And our parameters have the random value that it should get called later. That's weird. Because invoke subject is what actually calls in our response header. No, wait. When we do our given, passing in 0 on purpose and a random number on purpose. That's right. And then down assigner describe, invoke subject, passing in response headers. That's a random number for both. Yeah, I don't know why the string is there. Why is it 0? Is that 0? No, that's not at all. Yeah, that. Nothing there. So let's cast this. Mandatory parameter rate limit remaining is initialized in the param block. A rule. No, I don't. No, I want to skip it. I don't know how to turn off this. I mean, I guess it's not running. Okay, so we're in here, getting zeros. But, oh, goodness gracious. It does make random numbers. That's a thing. we're using it over here like a hash table, not a PS custom object. But I don't know. So the headers object comes out of do an invoke GitHub API request. Web request. Probably would have been helpful to show us the code that calls the code that we're testing, like the original code. Yeah, so this is invoke GitHub API request, and it takes a method, a get or put post or whatever. The resource, that's a relative resource, something like /. A hash table will represent all of the query string parameters for that request. An object represents the body that we want to send for that request if we're like post, and then a hash table send. Slap our URL together. I know I'm not following SRP very well here at all. This function is way too big. Refactoring's out of scope right now. So, find that one. Test it. And so what we do is before we initiate our actual request, we first wait based on our global state over here. All this wait function we have together. We wait in case the last time we called a function said that we need, as GitHub says we need to. So we do our wait, and then we in a try in case something horrible goes wrong. We invoke web request, and if there's a body, invoke web request with a body. If it has to make sure that we don't call this like with null, because I didn't know how that was going to be. That might be completely unnecessary. I don't know. But either way, we call invoke web request. We take the result, and then we pull out result.headers. We pass it to the update function, the function we're trying to test. Headers is on result. Result comes from invoke web request. Document, forget document. That doesn't work. We'll just with the internets. Web request. The rest of it. What's the response? It's going to be something called response. Takes lots of parameters, that's for sure. Oh. Bottom and scroll up. Output. So returns one of these suckers. That's what result is over here. We want to know what headers is. So wait, let's go with that. Right, it has headers inherited from that. Headers is a dictionary, not a hash table. It's not the same thing as a PowerShell hash table. Sometimes types matter. It's also not an abstract dictionary, it's a concrete instance of a dictionary. Different Microsoft. So we should be able to change like our response headers. Oh, that's hilarious. The song is called Commander Shepard. And it's about Mass Effect, it sounds like. Oh, that's great. Oh, that's great. I should quit my code stream and go play Mass Effect. Okay, so that's, I know you can't see it. We just hit the end of a tomato. I'm using this tomato be-focused program. So we're going to start a little 5-minute break. So I'm going to code less for the next 5 minutes. I need to find a 5-minute activity I can do to take my brain off of the work. It's stream friendly. This song is making me laugh. That's great. I'll just turn this on for a second. The music stopped. Oh man. Sorry. I don't know how to make the music go. I think they broke. I went to click the link in chat so that I can see more information about the song. Takes me to a pretzel link. And they have. They're running their streaming music service on Heroku. It's like. And it's not working well for them. Well. I take back what I said. Maybe I won't pay for pretzel. We'll see how often this happens, because that's kind of a problem. Oh well. Okay. Well, we'll cut our break short. Make y'all watch me eat cheese. I'm not that hungry. So we're testing PowerShell code. This is PowerShell code that interacts with the GitHub API. The idea is it does things like it lets your people on your teams. I need this for actually a couple of different side projects. So this is like the side project of a side project. So you'll see some indication like from folder names and stuff that this is for work, but it's Friday evening and I'm writing PowerShell unit tests. I'm not doing work. I'm not sure that I'm having fun, but I'm not doing work either. So we're just trying to get this to a working state, trying to prove that it works so that in a repeatable fashion. That's why we're writing tests. Doing a lot of fighting the testing framework, fighting types. We did just recently figure out this type of this variable is actually dictionary of string, so we can use that instead of passing around a generic object. We can actually be explicit about that. gotten a habit over years of working with PowerShell off and on, but not years of testing, so PowerShell. That being explicit with types, like when you know the type of something, if you can clamp it down and like use that in your parameter instead of calling an object, you can find bugs. Excuse me. Collections.generic. That's a mouthful. And it's still complaining. Why is it complaining? Angle bracket syntax, maybe? PowerShell, you're so weird. You like the oh, there it came back. We got some more music. Oh well. It's not Commander Shepard. Man, I'm gonna miss that. Oh, then it died. Oh, that's funny. Oh man. Oh, I can just picture what's going on. It's Friday evening. Everyone wants to stream something. They're using this music service for music that you can use on streams, and it's just dying. Oh man. If any of you in the audience are developers by day and you've ever worked on an app that's fallen over at a bad time, I'm sure you're all cringing for right now. Oh. So, people getting phone calls. Yeah, I'm just refreshing. It's still their application page. And here's the app itself. Free entertainment, guys. Can you smell the smoke? It's burning. It's burning. They're on fire. Their poor servers are on fire. And they're on Heroku, right? Or at least this app is on Heroku. So they're probably like, they probably don't have like a big like ops staff, right? It's probably this like a 3 or 4 person like, programming IT team, ops. Oh, whew. Fuck to the hell. My heart's with you. That's okay. I'll start singing songs. That's how we'll make our music while we code. Oh goodness. So yeah, we be explicit with our types. Sometimes that helps. So have that there. Very wordy. Very, very. Now we can use that here. Maybe. And that way we can definitely index it. It's no longer a custom object. It's a straight up a dictionary. We can use pass it around. Passing it into here is dictionary. Error occurred. Describe diagram to find type system that collections that generic. You know that's a type. It exists. I promise. What's wrong with you? Oh, am I just typing it wrong? Collections, generic. There, no, I don't need the weird colon thing. That's something that Microsoft does sometimes in their docs. It's like an internal representation. But in general, system, dictionary. Well, I make that hash table. Use it. I could probably pass it in and still work. Okay, turn this back to object. Let's be dynamic, folks. I don't like dynamic. Unable to find. No, I got rid of it. Oh, but I didn't save. That bind response handler is null. line 28, saying response header. Well, what if we take the little things off? Yeah, we don't need to use script colon if we aren't changing the value of the variable. This isn't counted as changing the value, because we're dereferencing it first, and then only need the script colon thing trying to change the value. Oh, that worked. That's interesting. We've been fighting this test for a while now, specifically this parameter problem, and changing it over to a hash table and taking out the script stuff first. Because the object exists and then we're modifying it, we're not rewriting it or anything like that. That's funny. Yeah, so we can actually see here, call it as part of the before each. And then we call it again when we invoke subject with a different value. The value that test passes. All that to get a single test to pass. Someone like Bob Martin would probably tell you this is why you write your tests first and then your implementation. I've been writing code for like 20 years. That's where all my hair went. I've only been writing tests for 7 or 8 years. Well, habits die hard. I write my code and I write tests. I don't normally wait 3 months to write the tests. I normally wait to write the tests. Like I said, this original code base was slapped together in a hurry as part of a side project. That's why I wasn't hurried. You get burned by that. So we got our values. Our test works. Let's pull out some of our really noisy, the more noisy the debug code, because we don't need that. Let's work. Some of this in. Leave the latter one. We'll leave the original one. Call breaking point. That's fine. That's the way we want it. Have that in there at least twice. Okay, so our test, we're describing that the GitHub API rate limit tracking file, given a rate limit capacity currently being exceeded, when you call update GitHub API rate limit tracking, given the response headers. It updates tracking from headers. That's in place. Updates. That sounds kind of, that's that generalized term, and we're only asserting against one variable. We should probably actually assert both. So it's the time, the reset value. So stateful. Right now we're passing in a random value. So updates. Rate limit remaining. So I don't know. Grammar is hard. And then we'll do a different one. And then we can dry out, since we're adding a different test in the same context. Let's move that there. These tests are effectively just asserts now. So one thing I really like about Pester and a few other frameworks. The one I normally, no testing framework I normally use in C# doesn't do, is the arbitrary nesting of your tests, right? And you can classify how you're nesting, right? Like, this is describe, context, so you can kind of give information to the person who's reading the test results, like what they're dug down into. And then you can dry stuff out just by moving it up the chain. I like that. The flatter structure I've been forced to follow in a lot of past has limitations when you have something. It's hard to read. It's hard to follow it. So I'm going to change this to actually be the Git that we care about. So this function. And now we need to make an assert against it. Actually, both of these asserts are making the sense like this doesn't actually verify that it updated. It just verifies that it's nothing. We probably want to do should be response headers. We'll just stop. It's expected rate limit remaining equals response header. This. And this one's going to be expected rate limit reset. It's going to be a date time. That's not going to be number of seconds, even though we're passing in a number of seconds. So we got to do math. Got to do math on time. Right, we've got to go down here. Adding to the Unix at the number of seconds. Is it? It's totally okay to duplicate some production code into your test code a little bit. We don't know how to read these variables without like exporting them out. So I don't. We already fought that problem, right? Like we don't know how to get these variables, so we can't just like look up value and just duplicate one line of code. If a problem in during maintenance, the Unix. There might actually be a PowerShell way to do that. Header value. This is going to be down here. Add seconds to. I'm going to response header. Go to test. Response headers. Should be. Now, why is it green? Signed but never used. It's used. It's used right there. We're using it in math. That's oh, we didn't put a dollar sign on it. That's why it was syntax error. And our test passed. Okay, so before we move on to our next test, I do see some things that aren't dry that we can do something in. Got this X rate limit remaining string several times file. I do this with something. Like at the top of it. Response header. So it's a rate limit remaining response header name. Variable name should be self-documenting, even if they're really freaking long. Also, my conviction is this along. Eventually, I'm gonna have to put this up for peer review and coworkers, so I gotta at least have some semblance of consistency within the same file. So this is saying it's not being used. Of course, it's not being used, but we're gonna go ahead and find all cases of that and replace it with that. And then we echo it. And of course that replaced here. Rate limit reset response header name. Response header name. And we're gonna on the clipboard. I don't know, because it looks like an assignment. Is that still going to work? Is it going to assign 0 to those values now? No. No, it's not. That's funny. Let's drive. So now that we know that our update GitHub API rate limit tracking function works as expected, the second function, which depends on the state that the first one modifies a bunch, we can test it. Right? And it's in the same file, so I wish I had code for it. I can't collapse this stuff. No, oh no, don't do that. What's that? I really wish I could collapse it. Creates a logical group of tests. Does that mean my tests are logical? Okay, so we're gonna do a test of GitHub limit reset. We're gonna do it in the same context, or the same. Well, not this. Actually, yeah. That same nested context. No, because this doesn't have lots of it. Yeah, so different describe. We're going to do describe, and then we're going to make a function called invoke subject, and we're all that. Takes no parameters. Hey, we don't have to fight parameters this time, right? If only. We still need a given. We actually need a similar given. We need hold on a second. Yeah, this is where we have to worry about like drying between the tests. But this was we're actually need it up here. So we do function given rate limit capacity seed. Now 2. I don't think I needed to do that. Hold on. Because I'm doing it inside, the describes in the same. Whatever. Click this, does it take? It takes us there. Okay, well, that's fine. Indirection that doesn't hurt reading too much. Control click. Gotta invoke subject. We're inside the context where capacity is exceeded. It. Time for an it. Sleeps. Till expected rate. Reset. That's literally what we're testing. For all, how do we set up our box? Let's go look at our good test, because I struggled with this last time I tried to do it. Insert mock call. Where's the mock? The mock is up here. It's not inside of a before each. I think I tried to put it in the before each and it didn't work. It's technically inside of a describe. So I can probably just do like a mock start sleep. Because that's the function that's getting called that we want to mock out. Yeah, sorry. So just to be clear, this function this does the wait. If we know that we've hit some sort of the rate limit, this does the sleep so that we don't get like banned by the GitHub API or whatever. We don't want the test to actually sleep. We just want the test to verify that a sleep would have been tried. So we're gonna mock start sleep out completely, and then we'll do a assert call. Let's start sleep. Where's the syntax? Parameter filter. Okay. A parameter filter. So what this will do is that it'll make sure that the mocking framework it'll check the history of every time this mock was called and compare the list of parameters against this filter. And it will assert that at least one of the times it was called had a call that matches this. This filter is a standard like PowerShell kind of predicate where we like a Boolean expression that has to evaluate to true for it to pass the filter. you're able to, inside this, one of the weird things about the syntax is this script block that we're defining here as part of this filter receives parameters that are named the same as the parameters to the original commandlet would be called. So if start sleep is called with dash milliseconds, we'll have a milliseconds variable in here that we can compare to something like remaining total milliseconds. So in order to make this assert, we need a value here. So it's going to be expected sleep total seconds or something, right? Right, so we've got to give that a value. All our intervals done. Also, my Pomodoro program wants me to rate it on the store. I'm gonna rate it on the store. It's been a little annoying and not completely helpful, so you can guess whether or not I'm giving it 5 stars. I won't be any more explicit than that. So let's wrap up. I didn't want to spend the whole night coding. I actually want to play some video games at some point. So let's try and wrap this up real quick. The next like 15 minutes or so. Also want to change songs. My heart to fallen. Want less lyrics. Less lyrics. Okay. So yeah, expected total sleep milliseconds. That is something the original implementation is calculating based on the current time. That means we need to mock the current time too. The time has come. Never passes. It's always gonna be the same. Because we're gonna return we're gonna make a time. So now is going to be continue my trend of some sort of random-ish variable. Actually, it doesn't have to be random. We could do get date. We could just say like get that works. All right. In case it isn't clear, what I'm worried about is the code under test calls get date to get the current time. We need to anticipate this value, which is based on the current time, in our test. But if we don't mock out get date, the time could actually change. This is actually one of the simplest cases of like a race can actually get in the real world. Is just calling like the function to get the current time 2 times in a row. Sometimes you get the same value and sometimes you don't. It depends on the precision of the clock and just how the processor instructions get ordered and stuff. But you're not guaranteed to see the same results. And what's really weird is you could think, oh, that's a silly problem. It's going to run fast. You could actually get the same result 10 times in a row a day, and you can go off and install system updates, and a month from now it could break because maybe something changed about how the threads are prioritized or something. So it's really important when you're interacting with a clock in code that you're trying to test that you have the ability to mock out that clock and freeze it. If this were something like a C# program, I'd definitely have like a iClock interface that's wired into my dependency injection. It looks totally ridiculous if you're not used to the pattern. But once you spend a few minutes thinking about like, well, how do I make the clock be the same? Right? Like that. This is how. You gotta intercept the clock. So we're intercepting the clock. We're just gonna freeze it to the current time. Yeah, I'm not sure. That might not be the wisest. Like normally in my testing pattern, I do like a random time. But I don't want to go into overkill trying to add like a random back trade epic block just to make the random time. In other programming languages, I'd use certain libraries to make random tests. So I don't want to make a random date time function. So we'll just so we're mocking the time, we're going to mock the get date, and we expect expected total milliseconds. That takes the reset and subtracts now. So we're going to define that as call, straight up call. Yeah, something, we got an int somewhere that's not an int. Total millisecond. There we go. That wasn't it. Where's it at? Line 52. Start sleep milliseconds, remaining dot total milliseconds. From line 6. So we're calling this. I guess we probably have a weird timestamp. Oh, well, we got a weird total number of seconds. We're gonna rename this because we need a variation of it. So I'm gonna just call this random int positive. That's what it is. So we're going to specify maximum. Int max value. I think that's how that's done. Now we're going to do a nice positive 60 for total number of seconds. Pretty short. Alright. And the CLR short is 16-bit. We want a smaller number, so it's a small number of seconds. And we're going to use that when actually, I don't know if we need the other one now. Hold on. Is that referenced? Input string is not in correct format. Find 14 for the tests. String. Unable to find type short. They're gonna make me fight for it. That's fine. I know magic. Too large or too small for an int 32. It does have a decimal number on there. That might have actually been the problem to begin with. I don't know, it is a big number and it's negative. Yo, let's take another look at that. That's rate limit tracking line 52. Should be 52. So total milliseconds, if I remember correctly, so this is going to be, this is the result, this is a time span. That's going to be at like a double. Actually, in milliseconds takes an int, maybe is the problem? Also, I don't know why it's a big negative number. Let's turn on write information, because there's a log statement already in this code. Let's see what it's printing. So we do that by doing information preference equals continue. I'll test again. Waiting negative something. That doesn't look like a. Oh gosh. That's like a. It's like days, hours, hours, minutes, seconds. It's a negative number of hours. Till right, because it's saying the reset is at epic from 1970. Right, because it's it's not okay. Okay, so I think I understood. We made a misunderstanding all through all this. We did rate limit reset seconds, and that isn't the number of seconds. That's the Unix timestamp. See, I'm not used to thinking Unix timestamps. Most of my development of IP experience has been on Windows. Surprise. So I got mistaken. Returning to this code, I interpreted this variable completely wrong. It's not really seconds. It's rate limit reset Unix timestamp second. And I call it Unix timestamp seconds because some software occasionally does timestamps in milliseconds, and that is a thing that happens in the real world. And I know it's not the right way, but you run into it and you have to deal with it, and your variables are named in a certain way and everything goes bad. So whenever I name a variable like this that represents some part of an amount of time, I make sure that that unit is in the variable name to make it real clear. So we do need to go back, and it's rate limit seconds, or reset seconds. And we need to make sure everywhere, both here and there, rate limit reset. Font header name. Alright, don't we specify the name of the parameter somewhere? It could be invoke subject, right? Book subject. Oh, it's response headers. Okay, okay. Yeah, we don't. No, but we did in our given. Here it is, right there. Oop. It's wordy, but it's descriptive. You'd have a hard time reading that. You'd have a hard time not understanding it. So now we've got our rate limit read seconds. We'll understand if that's seconds that we're specifying in there. We want the timestamp to always be in the future for our tests, right? We can't just have a random positive 16. We actually need something that when we use some arbitrary timestamp, it's probably in the future. As such, all of our tests are now going to be dependent on clock now. That's for this file. Should still work. That way, when we do this, oh look, and we'll have to move our. And we'll make it a random number of seconds after now, so we'll actually do oh gosh. Oops. Variable. 10 seconds is going to be now dot subtract. I think is a real thing, and then total seconds. That's a thing that exists. Oh gosh. That is a dense line. Ignore me every time I hit these buttons. So here. I use a dollar sign. And I swore I'd try to wrap this up in 15 minutes, and the 15-minute timer is a hot second. Still has a weird number on it. Yeah, so we'll go ahead and what's the syntax? Is it -m? Oh yeah. -help. And of course it wants to open the web browser. As I figured. Yeah, I never used the command line for that. I'm gonna let you in on another one of my secrets. I've been doing this long enough that I really, oh gosh. Oh, that's not good. I've been doing this long enough that I'm a big tortoise guy. So, let's find Explorer. Oh, you broke it. He's so broken. Start here. here. Why is my right click not working? Okay. I'm gonna have to go be sad. Maybe I do need to get syntax up. Type on the command line. We'll get status. Get it -a because we want Shell to do everything, and we want to do C for the message. Bit for tests still working. Don't know how that works. It's not -C for the message. I'm looking at the documentation for the shell's active. M for message. Why does it have an up arrow 1 on it? No. It's supposed to be the triple equals. I distinctly remember what that's supposed to look like. Get status. Your branch is ahead of. Oh, because I've got an upstring. Okay, no, that's fine. Yeah, that's right. Okay. Today we watch Bruce struggle with tools he uses for his daily career. Okay, well, thanks for joining me on this adventure through Tedium. I promise you guys actually made it easier for me because I wasn't gonna do this without streaming it. So you were helpful. Even though you were quiet, you were helpful. I hope you learned something. If you have questions, either ask them in my Twitch chat after the video is dead, or once I export it to YouTube, there'll be a comment section there too. So feel free to tag in if you've got any questions. I'm happy to answer, or suggestions. Thanks again, and I'll see you guys on the flip side.